Title: A millionaire asks a farmer for help after his car breaks down. And when he enters her living room he sees. It was an unusually warm summer afternoon when Alan Whitmore, a self-made millionaire, found himself stranded on a remote country road. His car, a sleek, luxurious vehicle that suited his fast-paced city life, had given up in the middle of nowhere. He cursed under his breath as he looked around. Nothing but rolling hills, golden fields, and the odd farmhouse dotted the horizon. His phone had no signal, and the sun was slowly dipping, casting long shadows across the landscape. Alan wasn't used to this. He was the kind of man who lived in penthouses, attended high-powered meetings, and traveled in private jets. He thrived in the controlled chaos of the city, where everything could be fixed with a call to his assistant or a swipe of his platinum card. But out here, none of that mattered. After checking under the hood and realizing his expertise didn't extend beyond writing checks for repairs, Alan spotted a small farmhouse a few hundred meters down the road. There was no other option. He decided to walk, hoping the farmer would have a phone he could use. As he approached the house, it struck him how humble it was. A small, whitewashed building with peeling paint, a picket fence, and a well-worn garden that spoke of hard work and a love for the land. He knocked on the door, and after a moment, it creaked open to reveal a woman in her mid-30s. She was dressed simply in a loose cotton dress, her hands calloused and rough from labor, her hair tied back in a messy bun. Her face bore the marks of someone who had lived through hard times, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes. "Hi there," Alan began, trying to sound less frustrated than he felt. "I'm sorry to bother you, but my car broke down on the road, and I was wondering if I could use your—" Alan's mind was racing. His past was a blur, filled with corporate takeovers, lavish parties, and empty relationships. But something about this place, this woman, and those photographs felt unsettlingly familiar, like a dream he couldn't quite remember. "Remember what?" he snapped, the frustration boiling over. "I've never been here in my life." The woman sighed and sat down on the worn armchair by the fire, gesturing for him to sit across from her. Reluctantly, Alan obeyed, his curiosity now outweighing his anger. "My name is Clara," she began. "And you have been here before. A long time ago, before you became who you are now." Alan frowned. "What are you talking about?" Clara took a deep breath, as if bracing herself to open an old wound. 15 years ago, you came through this town. Back then, you weren't a millionaire. You weren't anyone special. Just a young man, lost and searching for something, though I don't think even you knew what it was. You were different then, kinder, more hopeful. You stayed here for a while, helped out around the farm. She paused, her eyes flickering with a sadness that tugged at something deep inside Alan. "We got close. But then you left. You disappeared without a word, and I never saw you again." Alan stared at her, incredulous. This couldn't be true. He would remember something like that, wouldn't he? His mind was a vault, carefully organized and compartmentalized. He prided himself on being in control, always knowing where he had been and what he had done. But this woman, this place, none of it rang a bell. I don't remember any of that," he stammered. Clara smiled sadly. "I'm not surprised. You had big dreams back then. You wanted more than this life. And when the opportunity came, you took it. You left this place behind. You left me behind. Alan felt a pang of guilt, though he still wasn't sure he believed her. Why didn't you try to find me? I did, Clara said quietly. I looked for you for months. But you had changed your name, moved to the city, started building your empire. You became Alan Whitmore, the millionaire. And there was no place for me in that world. Silence hung between them, thick and heavy. Alan didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to deny it all, to accuse her of making up stories. But another part of him, the part he had buried under years of ambition and success, felt the weight of her words, the truth in her eyes. So, what now? He asked finally, his voice hoarse. Clara shrugged. That's up to you. For the first time in years, Alan felt lost. All the wealth, all the power he had accumulated, felt meaningless in the face. The room seemed to spin around him. Alan felt like he had been punched in the gut, the air knocked out of his lungs. He had a son. How could this be possible? His mind raced back to those years, to the time he had spent drifting before he found his footing in the corporate world. It was all a haze, but now, pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. He looked at Clara, searching her face for some sign that this was a lie, a trick, but all he saw was the raw truth. And in that truth was the reflection of the man he had once been, carefree, idealistic, and reckless. Why didn't you tell me? He whispered, his voice trembling. Clara sighed, sitting back down. I tried, Alan. I sent letters, but you never responded. Eventually, I stopped trying. I realized that you had made your choice. You chose the life you have now, and I didn't want to burden you with something you clearly didn't want. I didn't know. Alan cried, his voice breaking. I didn't get any letters. Maybe you didn't, Clara said softly. Or maybe you did, and you just don't remember. Either way, it doesn't matter now. Ben is 11 years old, and he doesn't know who you are. He thinks his father is dead. Alan buried his face in his hands, the weight of it all crashing down on him. He had missed so much, his son's first steps, his first words, his first day of school. All of it gone, lost to the years he had spent chasing after success. I want to meet him, he said suddenly, lifting his head. Clara hesitated, her eyes searching his face. Are you sure? It's not that simple, Alan. You can't just walk into his life after all these years and expect everything to be okay. He's been through a lot. He's not like you. I don't care, Alan said, his voice firm. I need to meet him. I need to make things right. Clara looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. He's out in the field, helping with the harvest. I'll take you to him. As they walked out of the house and across the fields, Alan's heart pounded in his chest. He felt like a stranger in his own life, unsure of how to act, what to say. When they reached the edge of the field, Clara pointed to a boy working alongside a few other farmhands, hauling baskets of crops. He was tall for his age, with messy brown hair and a serious expression. That's him, Clara said quietly. Alan felt a lump rise in his throat as he watched his son, work in the field. He wanted to run to him, to embrace him, but his feet felt like they were glued to the ground. What if Ben rejected him? What if he hated him for abandoning them? Go on, Clara urged gently. He deserves to know the truth. Taking a deep breath, Alan forced his legs to move. He walked toward the boy, his heart hammering in his chest. When he was a few feet away, Ben looked up, his eyes narrowing in confusion. "Who are you?" the boy asked, his voice wary. Alan swallowed hard, trying to find the words. I'm your father." Ben stared at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. Alan felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. Days passed, and Alan stayed on the farm, trying to make amends, but Ben refused to speak to him. The boy's anger and hurt were palpable, and Alan couldn't blame him. He had failed as a father, and now he was paying the price. But Alan wasn't the type to give up easily. He stayed, helping out on the farm, trying to show Ben that he was here to stay this time. Slowly, bit by bit, the ice began to thaw. Ben would talk to him in short bursts, mostly about the farm, but it was progress. Alan didn't push, knowing that trust had to be earned. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Clara broke the silence. "Ben, your father has something he wants to say." Alan looked at her, then at Ben, his heart in his throat. "I'm sorry, Ben," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm sorry for not being there, for missing so much of your life. I can't change the past, but I want to be part of your future, if you'll let me." Ben stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly.